Two things. Number one, all right, holding runners on defensively, and then two, the base running side of it. Okay, so obviously runners are going to get on base no matter what we do. Runners are going to get on offensively, defensively, both sides of the baseball. We're going to have runners on. The opposition is going to have runners on. We both know that. Okay, so when it all shapes itself out, a couple of things, a point of emphasis, and this is going to be pretty brief. Holding runners on. I have a base behind me. Hopefully, you guys will be able to see it. So I'll start with the runner on second base, and then I'll backtrack towards first base. So holding runner on at second base, I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make as infielders, and that's something that we've grown up doing, is the pat, is the always, letting them know that we're there. I'm a big believer that you try and be as quiet as possible when you're holding a runner on. You start at the bag and you work out. A lot of times you guys you'll start in your position and go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But it's not how we're going to do things. And hopefully if it's different for you guys, it's a good thing. The guys who are returners on here are going to know that's how I like to do it. Unfortunately, when the season hits, you guys end up always going into your previous old ruts. So if you watch Major League games, the guys will always start closer to the bag and then move their way back into their position. Okay. Sometimes if you take your eye, again, I challenge you guys to take your eyes off the pitcher and catcher. If you do have the opportunity to go to a game, and you'll probably see the shortstop kind of go like that, or the second baseman kind of go like that, signaling throw the pitch. All right. There you go. He's not going anywhere. Worry about doing your job. So I think those are things that you can kind of look at on the major league side and apply them to what you see. A lot of college, starting at the bag, working your way off. I'm going to be quiet, and then I'm going to pull back. And the reation why I'm going to do that, it's going to allow the runner to hang himself out to dry. If we're going to pick, it's going to be on the third base coach. We're going to try and sell him out. So third base coach, if it's me, my commands are going to be, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. If you hear you're okay, you're going to be able to get another, keep your feet moving, keep your feet moving. You're going to keep being able to dance off the base, and we'll touch on that at the back end of this on the base running side. So if the shortstop is quiet and he's behind, you may get lulled into that yourself, and now, boom, there's a back pick maybe from the shortstop, or there's the daylight given from the second base. Okay, so starting at the bag, first priority, starting at the bag and retreating back to your position. Not going to start in my position and start here and then go back and forth, okay? It's wasted movement. We don't need to do that. Same thing from the second base side. I'm not going to end up going in here, back and forth, and then peel back off. Start at the base and work out. Second thing, be quiet, okay? Quiet, less is more in this situation. If you're running back and forth, right, even on dirt, you're going to hear, the base runner is going to hear your footsteps. He's going to know where you are, okay? Sometimes you'll even see some of the guys will stick their hands out to find out feel where you are. But usually where you want to be, if you're going to hold, once you retreat out, or you're going to start, you're going to be inside the guy's left shoulder. Okay, and the reason by that is when you're inside the guy's left shoulder, okay, you create the visual from the third base coach, so you may even block him out. He may not be able to get the depth perception. If the first base coach, you should be checking that as well, because he's got a better angle from that side. If he's not paying attention to that, the shortstop's distance to the bag and where you are, that's a great opportunity to come in and pick, okay? So the other thing, it also creates a visual where the pitcher, because it creates a lane for him to throw in. So if you do show daylight and he is there, I can get in position and he can throw to me, which is a clear line to where he needs to be on that side of the base. Okay, so start at the bag, work out, be quiet. All right, now when it comes time to hold the guy on consistently throughout the course of the game, I'm just going to shorten this up for the distance purpose. So this runner on second base is always going to get a bigger lead. He's going to have a secondary, right? So after the pitch is thrown, now we retreated back to the base, okay? We gave our little customary tap, now we're back, okay? We're retreating, we have a clean line of sight to the baseball. Once the runner shuffles out and he gets in his secondary lead, we just want to make sure that the runner clears us in his secondary, because we don't want to be in that situation as infielders, especially middle guys, where the runner can hold up, block our view. Okay, and then maybe it's right at him, so he's got to make a read. If it's to his right, maybe he can go. If it's behind him, maybe he has to stay. Maybe it's behind him and it's not well hit, so he's gonna try and advance. So if the ball's in front of him, maybe he's gonna come up, but you don't want to be involved in that runner's path or be able to obstruct or interfere in any kind of way. Okay, so you want to make sure once he gets his secondary through, you're in a clear line of play for the baseball, okay? So allowing that runner to get their secondary, having an idea. So use the first time he goes through it to have an idea. Now, on the back pick side, if you're coming from the shortstop side, back pick from the catcher, you want to make sure you're not going to give up your field position, okay? We're not going to try and, hopefully this guy throws a ball and the ball's not put in play, and that way I can back pick this guy. That's not how we're going to do it. When we're going to try and get to a back pick in this sense, we're going to make sure our first obligation is ball, right? Second obligation is base, third is the backup in here. Same thing as we've talked about the past couple of weeks. So going to the ball, boom, I have my chance at the play is over, I get in my circle, I get out of my circle, what we've talked about before, and now boom, I want to create the visual, give the catcher the daylight, he knows he's going to pick, he's going to throw down. Now maybe you have a sign from the catcher to from the catcher to the shortstop where, I'm going to drop my glove in between or I get some dirt, whatever it may be, that's kind of like a little cue that you may see sometimes on TV. Hey, I'm going to look to throw down here in this spot, okay, from the catcher side, okay? Now, just to back up for a second on the pitcher side, once the pitcher comes set with a runner on second, you want to try and track the looks, okay? So sometimes we know that as a base runners, if we see a pitcher come set and then he's 1 and go or 2 and go, we can take into consideration on that as an offense and use that to our advantage. Same thing needs to apply on defense. If you're the shortstop, you're the second baseman, or you're the catcher in that spot, you need to make sure that you point that out to your pitcher, because if he's just 1 and go or 2 and go, that's going to be exploited at some point, especially when we play the better teams. They're going to pick up on that and go. And now if the pitcher's trying to worry about his looks, trying to throw strikes, trying to execute his pitches, trying to understand what's going on in the flow of the game, he's going to get overwhelmed in that spot, and that's where we're going to lead to a big inning by the offense. Okay, so anything we can do to take some pressure off the pitcher in that sense, that's a big thing. Okay, obviously now with the limitations on the mound visits, 6 per game, 3 by the bench, 3 by the defense, any mound visit is paramount. So to send the shortstop to the mound to talk about that to the pitcher is tough, because that's a visit we may lose later on if we're going to bring everyone in to go over defensive protocol or something like that, like one trap or anything in that sense. Okay, so let's save those visits as best as we can, just in case we need to talk about something in a little bit greater context as may apply to a game. But that is a super important thing you need to realize as a shortstop, second baseman, on the looks. Okay, the other thing is you can time out those looks on picks. So if you have maybe it's a 3-look spin by the righty pitcher, and your timing is on the money, it's something you can work on in practice amongst yourselves, where if you have a rapport with that pitcher and the catcher and yourself, that's something that you can bring into your own repertoire over the course of things. And if we can get an out here, super important before we get an out throwing a pitch, okay? So starting at the base, okay, and working ourselves out into an athletic position to play defense in that spot, okay? Well, those are big things. I can't stand when guys stand there and they're on the base, they're patting. If you want to just give the token, okay, I'm here, I got you, all right? But we want to try and sell that guy out. And when we talk about our picks off, our bunt traps and stuff like that a little bit later on, those are things a little bit more on the team side. This little way of holding a runner on is going to be super important, because it's going to allow the defense to hang themselves out in that spot. Okay. Same thing on the second base side, very similarly. Okay. We'll just move the cone a little bit that way. Here's the base. I'm on the second base side of the bag now. All right. So again, second base, I want to start at the base, and then I want to get back into my position. Okay, I don't want to be at the base going back and forth. So many times you see guys, they're sitting there going like this. What is that going to do if the guy spins and you were retreating in that spot? Now you just threw the ball into center field, and that's another problem. Okay, so again, starting at the base, working in, and being quiet. So if I can be here, I'm here. I keep that guy close by hanging. Now that pitcher, he's going to throw. He's going to turn around and go. He gives me the look. He's gone. Boom. So it's important to know what the looks are, how many looks you're going. Sometimes that can come from the shortstop as well, knowing the sign, right? Now the cadence of the sign, the cadence of the pitcher when he's on the mound, and how long he's going to use that set for. Those are all defensive things that you can use to your advantage when facing an offense, okay? So a couple of things on that side to just put into context. Daylight, okay? Now straight up pick, okay? From the second base side, it's going to be open hand, okay? So if you see the space or you want to go for a pick, now, if you're both going to the bag at the same time, it's a disaster, okay? So who has priority on those coverages? And that's why I'm bringing that into play with the picks, okay? Because, so rule of thumb is going to be this, right? If you have a right-handed hitter up, second baseman's going to be the guy holding the runner, right? The shortstop's going to play in his spot a little bit more, okay? Now, if you have a situation where the righty is up and he's bottom of the lineup, we got a pitcher on the mound with decent velocity, I may switch up coverage. If I switch up coverage, then I'm going to say, hey, let's let the second baseman play a little bit towards the right side. He's been on the ground right side all day. The shortstop will take the cover on that, and he'll be the one responsible for holding the runner there, okay? So if we have a runner on first, it's a double play situation or whatnot. All those things come into play, and those are all things that need to be discussed out ahead of time or come from the bench. And the communication between the shortstop and the second baseman there is important. It's a double play situation. the pitcher, understanding who has coverage there. Because sometimes in that sense, maybe the second baseman now will be taking the throw back from the pitcher. It's rare, but it can happen. Okay, so understanding who has priority. So rule of thumb, like I just said, just to repeat. So right-handed hitter up most of the time, it's going to be the second baseman that's going to be the one responsible for holding the runner. He's also going to be the one taking the steal throw. Okay, like I just said, it could happen the other way, but again, that's probably communicated out ahead of time. Opposite side, second base side, right? So now you have a left-handed hitter up. Second baseman is going to be back playing more in his traditional spot, and the shortstop will be the one to hold the runner on at second base, most likely also to take the steal throw. Okay. Now bunt coverages could switch that up, but depending on which way we're running, if we're running a wheel to one side, if we're just doing a simple bunt trap in one spot. So all those things will come into play as well. But just for the rule of thumb on holding the runner on, it's important that you understand righty up, second base side has the hold, lefty up, shortstop side has the hold, right? Second baseman's going to be back in his position. Okay, so those are the priority sides of things. So the other thing what you could do in that sense, which I kind of like, as a middle infielder by trade, we would kind of communicate ahead of time. Maybe the shortstop's going to go in first because now he's going to get back. So maybe on the shortstop, maybe it's a speedy runner we got on, and we're going to start off at the bases the shortstop with the right-handed hitter up. I'm going to be in first, and I'm going to pull back early. Okay, now the second baseman's going to come and do his thing. Okay, it's not always something that we like to do, but it's something that we can do when the situation dictates. And again, when the situation, what that situation is if it's a speedy runner. So if we got like a Zach running or a Bond running against us in that spot, plus runner who runs, who's aggressive on the base pad, maybe that's a situation where we really need to keep him close. Maybe it's also a situation with 2 outs of tying runners on second base. We got to keep that runner close to give our outfielders a chance on a base hit to throw out. Okay, and that ties us back into the outfield. Okay, the center fielder in that spot needs to make sure that if we're picking, he knows what's going on because he needs to cheat up in that spot. So it's always a reminder to remind them ahead of time, hey, if we pick, you need to make sure you cheat up so you have our backup here. Okay, so again, rule of thumb on the daylight. Okay, if we're on that, following what we're talking about there, open hand is going to be how the second baseman's going to get to the bag. All right, for the pick. Open glove, daylight play. Those are open plays, not scripted. Okay, just impulse plays. Maybe this guy's getting a little bit too big of a lead. Let's try and keep him close. Let's try and get a pick out of it. Okay. Obviously, when the pitcher's going, whether he's using inside move or spin, righty or lefty, it's always going to be hopefully in the framework of our body. But our main priority is going to be to keep the ball in front of us. Okay, even on a throw down from the catcher. Okay, and we talked about that on the cutoffs and relays, and also on the tag play earlier. Okay, so obviously when we get to the base, we want to control our breakdown. Whatever part of the base we can get to, great. Okay, in that spot, because we just need to make sure we have good footwork around the base. We don't want to trip over the bag by any means in that spot. Okay, so that's a little bit of talking about holding runners on. Just to repeat for the upteenth time: start at the base, work back. Okay, be quiet. Okay, you can give a token pat. That's fine. But we're not going to stand there beating the back, going back and forth, okay? We're also not going to go to the base at the same time. It's something that always plagues us, okay? It plagues a lot of teams and a lot of defenses because both middle infielders are going to base at the same time. Both middle infielders are pulling back at the same time. Well, if you can get a good base runner that's or a good coach, your base coach that sees that, picks up on that, by the third or fourth inning, if you got enough traffic on the bases, you're going to be able to exploit that, okay? And hopefully your personnel allows for that to happen so that you guys, when you're on offense, if you pick up that, that's a great opportunity to run in that spot, okay? So any questions on holding runners at second base? Shortstop side, second base side. Any questions on the daylight play picks? Okay. All right. So I just want to talk briefly about the runner at first base, holding the runner on at first base. So, well, again, we're set up this way now. So this runner, the cone will be the runner again. So first baseman, let's go on, runner on first with nobody out. Right? We'll just use that situation. So that runner is going to take a 12-foot left foot lead, and we'll talk about that on the offensive side. My first baseman, when you're holding the runner on, all right, again, you want to make sure that you allow the ball to travel as far as possible. And we talked about that last week with cutoffs and relays. If you watch the Yankee game a lot over the weekend, you saw Vladimir Guerrero playing first base. A lot of early stretching. I know they talked about that on the telecast, but a lot of times, and then there was one play where I think it was Bichette made a really good play in the hole, and Vlad Jr. was trying to pick from back here on his stretch. So I'm thinking, wow, that's a great teaching point, because now you start to see his glove is so deep and he's trying to scoop that he's never going to see what's going to happen. And of course, that obviously didn't make the play. So whenever you're holding a runner on, you want to make sure that you are in a good athletic position. Okay, your left foot is always going to work with your left arm. So not every throw is going to be on the money here, let the ball travel, tag, right? It's not always going to be that easy. But when the negative does happen, we got to be ready for it. Okay, so left hand and left foot work together. A lot of times we see the reach happen, right? Instead of, I can step this way, okay? Or maybe the guy throws it this way for some reason, and instead of just kind of moving our feet, we kind of stick the glove out there. You see guys do that all the time. Move your left foot, okay? Come off the base, all right? Remember, it's not a force there. You got to tag the guy so you can come off the base in that spot. Again, we're only talking about the footwork holding the runner on. So left arm and left hand working together at the same time, okay? So ideally, the throw is going to be to our lower half of our body, knee to thigh height. We're going to allow it to get deep in this spot, okay? And when the throw comes, our left knee is going to bend, and we're going to tag. We're going to let that throw travel as deep as possible, okay? Because, again, the ball is going to travel faster than our hand is. But, again, anticipate the bad throw, because when it does happen, you got to make sure you knock it down, keep it in front of you, okay? So coming off the bag in this spot, okay? When we're here, we're going to obviously aggressively shuffle off the bag, get into an athletic position. Now, this is when we're playing in front, in this sense, when we're in front of the runner, because that's where we're going to be in that instance with no one in front of him, or most times with the runner on first base. If we're in here, okay, and now that catcher decides to back pick, well, guess what? We're not going to be able to get to here and put the tag down on him unless we're really close to the base for some reason. So a lot of times when we see that happen, we're going to have to make sure we step inside the diamond and be here and kind of tag him on the back side. So it's almost like you're going to flip yourself around in that sense, okay? If it's a bunt play and the guy misses it and the second baseman's already breaking over, obviously the second baseman's going to be able to sneak in behind. Okay, you guys as middle infielders, the second baseman sneaking in behind, that's where we're going to get that pick from, okay? So keep that in perspective as well. First baseman, you're going to come off the bag aggressively. If there is a back pick from the catcher when we're holding that runner on, we need to make sure that we're going to always think about anticipating the tag blind side behind us, okay? If we can get back to this spot, great, okay? But most times, if it's a snap throw from the catcher, drop knee, drop it, right? We're gonna be here. If it's a pitch out, okay, in that spot. Now, maybe it's a pitch out. We're gonna try and get second base in that spot. We're gonna anticipate the guy running. However, if he doesn't run, the catcher may shuffle his feet back and pick. And we can't be a spectator in that spot. So we need to make sure we're here. We watch the pick out. We should be able to see the sign for the pitch out. The pitch out happens. We need to make sure that we immediately get back to the base, because even if this guy doesn't go, okay, we need to make sure that we give the catcher a secondary option to throw behind. Maybe he goes halfway, falls down, or something like that. The play is not dead, so don't fall asleep on that play. Even though you're the trail in that spot, don't fall asleep, okay? So even on a steal throw, okay, when the steal happens, you're not doing anything. So if there's a green light steal, straight steal, second base, you're not going to just fall asleep on that. You're going to need to make sure that you get back to your base. And then if there's a rundown, and we'll cover that in a couple of weeks, we're going to try and cut the distance down in that spot. But again, give our options, our fielders options. So if you're asleep or you're not paying attention in that spot, or you've given up on the play because it's crossed you, you could be costing us a chance at an out. Or if we do get a throw down and the guy does get caught in a rundown, you could be all the way back at the base in that spot, where we could probably shorten that distance right there and let the pitcher get behind you. Or maybe it's the second baseman coming over in that sense. Or if he's not already over there, maybe there's a shift or something on. So allowing the game to play within the game. Any questions on holding the runner, first picks on that side, on the first base side of things?